saw this story. I think it came out like Friday. Boomer Esiason's a former NFL quarterback, with Cincinnati. I think he won an MVP. He's a morning show host at WFAN in New York. And he was talking about Caleb Williams and had some pretty harsh comments. He said the level of entitlement is breathtaking. No wonder he failed and got his coach fired. Keep your mouth shut. You're going into the greatest league there's ever been that we all love. You're going to make $500 million potentially. So just keep your pie hole shut. Go out and play football and earn respect. Well, first of all, there are no absolutes in the NFL. It is a collaborative business. Patrick Mahomes has been blown out twice in Super Bowls when he didn't have protection. So yes, this is not a star-driven league. Even Mahomes has no shot. Tom Brady's last year in New England, he didn't have a receiver or tight end that could separate. It's a collaborative business. And so I defended Caleb Williams for this reason. There are four things that have to work, generally speaking, for a touchdown of any length in the NFL. You got to call the right play. You can't have a penalty. You got to block it right. And the 11 guys have to execute. Almost all of them execute. The Bears for 100 years just didn't do that much simultaneously on offense. So Caleb Williams had every right, as his dad did, to be concerned about it. So when I broke this story a year ago, it's not like they were, building up a firewall. They kind of knew there was going to be heavy criticism if this came out. That's why the minute I said it, that they just weren't in love with the idea of Chicago, the next afternoon it was, oh, we can't wait. They knew the repercussions of this coming out. But if you look at since Caleb Williams has been a Chicago Bear, to me, he's been great at the podium. He's been a team guy. He said all the right stuff. So since day one, I think he's been great. So, and for the record, Boomer Esiason has been, I would say, a little political, calculated in his career. He said things in his career to defend Boomer Esiason. I'm okay with it. NFL teams leak things to protect themselves. Arizona did it with Kyler Murray's work habits. If stuff gets out, if you're trying to protect yourself, you get one shot at this. I'm okay with it. And I don't buy Boomer Esiason saying, he got Matt Eberflus fired. Matt Eberflus on Sunday road games was 0-18. He was the worst statistical head coach ever in league history on the road. If you go back to Eberflus's clock management against Detroit on Thanksgiving, the radio team says live on the air, he just got himself fired. I got nothing against Matt Eberflus. He is a story as old as time in the NFL, better position or coordinator than head coach. Not even all of Eberflus's issues are on Eberflus. I think he's a capable coordinator. But I don't buy into this, that Caleb Williams has been disruptive.
Okay. I feel as though this is the perfect example as to why you don't just listen to anyone. And not Colin. I'm not talking about Colin. I'm talking about Boomer here, which is a very fitting name for him. Just because you have a platform, just because you're famous, wealthy, good looking, you're a celebrity, you're a pop star, you're an actor, you were a professional athlete, whatever it is, doesn't mean you actually know how to navigate really anything. The art of conversation, the art of even having takes, the art of analyzing and breaking down arguments and even having an opinion is very much that. It's an art and a science. And I feel as though I can speak very closely to this. Because obviously the videos that I make and the interaction, the true direct interaction that I have with you guys watching this, right? Like I do not have a distance. Nick Wright, Colin, all these guys, like they do, right? Patrick Mahomes, right? One of the biggest, most famous athletes in the history of the world, really. And like he's only so connected to his own fan base because of his own success, his own wealth, fame, and the need to have some separation because of, just how crazy it can get. And in a lot of ways, like I'm kind of a unique bridge to some of this type of stuff because I make these videos, I have these takes, but I'm obviously not rich. I'm obviously not famous. I'm not larger than life, but I can see the experience of what it's like to have takes, to say something, to have people watch the things that come out of my mouth, right? And have that, and see how they interact to it and react to it. And since I'm in the comment section, since I'm reading all this, like I see it so personally. And with this, it's so obvious to me that people just don't fundamentally understand the art of the conversation and how to actually, like how you should really have these types of conversations. And it's how we constantly find ourselves with such over the top takes, with like actual true clickbait, with just extreme sound bites, because they feel as though that's how you do it. That's how you get there. And we see this most exaggerated with like the Stephen A's and the Skip Baylesses of the world, where it's just like, I need larger than life opinions, and I just need everything to be so bold and loud and in your face because that's what the people want. And it's just like, you can build that audience if you want, and you could even be very successful, obviously, as we've seen. But it's like, it doesn't mean it's right. There's a lot of ways to make a lot of money that aren't necessarily right. And when you have such opinions like this, like especially when you're an ex-athlete, I've witnessed this over the years. You have this demographic of ex-athletes who just always want to be so tough, so hard. Everyone's injured. If you're on the field, you still gotta bring it. Or, it's all about who wants it more. And back when we played, we got fouled all. I had a guy who dislocated his arm and he popped it back in place and was right back out there. And it's just like, it's always just like, we're so tough, we're so hard, nothing can stop us. You got to earn your right to be in this locker room. You got to earn your right. And it's always like, all right, we get it. Like, calm down. Stop pretending like you just lived in the hardest world, ever created. All right? I mean, a janitor working at an elementary school had it harder than you. So just, how about you shut up? How about you keep your pie hole shut? Like, who even talks like that? Like, what are you, like a 1950s Looney Tunes cartoon? Keep your pie hole shut. Like, all that pesky mouse keeps taking my cheese. Like, what are you even saying right now? Literally, like what, like, it's just stupidity. And I see stuff like this, and there's no evidence to believe that he's entitled. There's no reason to believe that he that he got Eberflus fired. Like, it's just like, it's why I when I first started this take, I kind of kept it separate from, like, let's actually like unpack this, because I don't even really see it as a take. I see it as someone who's just trying to be on a TV show or be on a radio show, like, right, like trying to be, I don't even want to say entertainer, because I don't even see it as entertainment, like, that's why not all of this stuff is equal. And so to even unpack this take in a measured way, where we're like, oh, well, is he entitled? Like, but like, I don't even really see the need for that. I really don't. Was he maybe a little bit overly confident? Sure. When he texted his punter, something that I, criticized him for, where he was like, oh, you're not going to really be punting that much. Sure. That's not entitlement, right? Like, that's just him, believing in himself. And again, too much so, which I've already, which I had criticized like a year ago. But you wouldn't say like entitled, right? He doesn't automatically believe that he belonged there. And when he was, when he started off with the Chicago Bears and what he's done throughout last season and this offseason, like, he's never given me the sense that he's blaming other people. When you're entitled, when things go wrong, you're just like, well, it's everyone else but me. When in reality, he's like, I want Ben Johnson to help me. I want him to make me better. I want him to call me out. I want to grow. I want to know what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right and how I can improve both. Like, he is not coming from a place of like, yeah, Eberflus was all the problem. I'm great. It's all them. Get him out. Like, none of that energy was put out there. And again, I've criticized Caleb when he made a statement about how he doesn't want to be friends. You know, he's like, oh, I think the NFL is too friendly or something. And I was like, bro, like, who are you to make a statement on that? You know, like, you're criticizing other players who have had more success than you. And it's just like, I just say less. Like, so it's like, I'm not just like 100% saying that Caleb has done no wrong. But again, it's an actual nuanced conversation about it. It's actually unpacking a little bit of this and a little bit of that. People still believe that you need to just be on one side of an argument in order for people to listen to you or for you to be correct. It's either got to be Caleb's done nothing wrong or Caleb is so entitled. He's ridiculous. This is a joke. And it's just like, you know, for me, when I hear people talk like that, I'm just like, my brain shuts off. It really does, no matter what the topic is. Whether it's news, politics, sports, pop culture. Like, I'm just like, I'm just so uninterested in such one-sided takes. It's why I rip Nick and, you know, and I scoffed at when Nick says something, you know, Nick Wright, when he's like, oh, the Chiefs are going to go undefeated. And I'm just like, I get that this is entertaining, that this is media, you know, et cetera, but like, you believe that the Chiefs are a great team, obviously. I'd rather you actually have a real conversation about how great you think the Chiefs are, and let's think about it. Let's actually talk about what do we think realistically they'll achieve, rather than just say they're going to be undefeated. You believe Caleb Williams is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL, but you take it to the extreme and say that the NFL is going to be easy for him. He's going to be an MVP candidate, and that the Bears are going to go to the Super Bowl. Those are not real grounded conversations to me, and I don't even trust those opinions. It's funny, you could actually have that opinion, but in a lot of ways you have to earn the right to have that opinion by having your past and your resume show you that you reach logical conclusions, that you actually bring grounded, non-extreme takes, which I feel like I've done. So if I come here and say, I believe Cam Ward is going to lead the Tennessee Titans to the Super Bowl, you could be like, whoa, that is so extreme. What are you talking about? And I go, well, let's unpack this. This is why. And it actually is more grounded. It's not just like me just being like, I just want to say something extreme because I get to put it in the thumbnail. I get to put it in the title. People are going to watch it. They're going to complain about it. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to be rich and famous because. And it's just like we get such weird variations of people talking honestly, and you can see how it's just chaos in a lot of ways. And it's why I love Colin the most. A lot of people, you know, still kind of complain about Colin and say, oh, what does he know, this or that? And I get it, because you could only be so correct so regularly, but at least I don't believe that Colin ever does any of this type of stuff. And if he ever does, it's actually because he really believes it. You know, if he comes out and says, I think so-and-so is a bad leader or a bad player, it's not, you know, when he had his issue with Baker Mayfield in the past, it's because it's what he actually really believed. And he wasn't doing this keep your pie hole shut type of stuff. That's more of an antic. That's more of, I need to be relevant. That's more of, I'm so tough, I played sports. That's more of, you know, someone not really grasping how to have a conversation. And I don't respect it. I fundamentally do not respect it at all. And it's just, it gets us further from the truth, and it gets us further from the reality of the moment. And like I said, I could spend 20 minutes talking about why I think, you know, Caleb isn't entitled, but like, what are things that he needs to work on in terms of like personality, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like, I don't even really see the need. And it's funny, because when I first kind of came across this clip, I didn't watch it, but I was trying to find, you know, the clips, and I can see, you know, the like the label, the title, where bear with me, and it says, how successful will he be this season? And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I was like, we've already answered this question so many times, and I'm like, oh, this is brutal. And I immediately look at the date in the bottom right corner. I'm like, okay, it's May 19th. Like, all right, we just got like 2 more months maybe until we can have like different conversations, but still, and it just like, it can be exhausting. But this is why someone like Boomer making this comment, because it's like, oh, here's another thing for us to talk about that's different. We don't have to now just talk about, will Caleb be successful with Ben Johnson? What does Caleb need to work on? What will Ben Johnson change with Caleb, right? Like, we could have that conversation too for the 1,000th time. But then when you have someone like Boomer say something like this, it's like, oh, here we go. This is something that we can talk about now. And that becomes why those things always ultimately rise, right? Because we will always hear takes like this, because people will always have them, and then it gives you something to comment on. So on one side, you could say, I'm grateful for this. On the other side, you could just be like, this is just so dumb. Why even entertain it? And that's part of the problem. It is. It's like Nick Wright says the Chiefs are going to go undefeated. And it's like, people like me and you can criticize and say, this is dumb. Let's have a better conversation than this. But at the same time, we're still talking about it. And that's why. And not years ago, like months ago, someone in the comment section said, you should be grateful that there's so many bad takes out there, because that's an extreme takes, because it's like, it's how you exist, and it's true. And I always say this now, it's just like, if everyone kind of had my way of thinking, then there would be no reason for anyone to ever watch anything that I create. And so I am grateful for it. And it is something that I accept as part of the sports ecosystem, which I've talked about, recently, where it's just like, yeah, we're going to have some of these conversations that we all know are dumb or stupid. But like, a part of it is like, it exists for us to say this is stupid, right? It exists for, Colin or Nick or anyone on any show will have a segment, have a soundbite, whatever it is. And part of it existing, its role in the sports conversation is just for us to be like, well, this is so dumb, right? When we Colin and First Things First comes out with predictions before the draft. Who's going to win the division before we even know who drafts who. We don't even know is who's the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's starting in New York, and yet it's just like, we all still do it because it's like, well, we want to talk about football, we want to talk about sports. And so I kind of come from the viewpoint where it's kind of maybe like a little bit in the middle, where we can still have those segments, which is what I think First Things First and The Herd and all those other shows do very, very well. But like, the next level extreme of that is when you have the absurdity of like something like this, or you have people like Stephen A. Smith making statements like, I don't know, so-and-so's the worst superstar I've ever seen in my life. And you're just like, oh my God, okay, right, I know, I get it. The worst superstar. So-and-so's never gonna I would trade him and kick him to the curb. And it's like, all right, sure, okay, whatever, I would lay hands on LeBron. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you would. And it's just like, I don't know. It just, in these moments, things can get kind of messy. And I still kind of go back and forth between, I wish it didn't exist, to I'm happy it exists because it gives us something to talk about. It's just not a role that I could ever be part in. I can never be that person who makes a video where I'm just like, Caleb Williams, just shut up. You're so entitled. This is ridiculous. Like, I can't be that person, because it doesn't even feel authentic, and it doesn't even feel accurate. And yeah, I don't know. I know I took this take from a more meta, more like outside, top down looking at it all. So I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this, just because, again, it's just like, I don't have a strong desire in this immediate moment to try to really like unpack the take itself, because in this moment, the take itself, it just means nothing to me. Maybe later on it could mean something to me, right? But as of right now, it just means nothing to me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb Williams being entitled, getting Eberflus fired, needing to keep his pie hole shut, you know, anything else in between, let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.